When someone lands on your sales page for the first time, they don't know you.
That's my purse! I don't know you!
They don't trust you, they don't care about your company, and they definitely don't owe you any of their attention. That means your sales page has one job: turn their skepticism into a buying decision. So in this video, I'm going to break down the complete structure of a high converting sales page so you understand exactly how to guide that transition in your customers. If you guys want more clients, more sales, and marketing that actually works, you should subscribe, because that's what all my videos are built to help you do. So the first thing we need to talk about is that structure is always more important than design. A lot of business owners tend to obsess over fonts, colors, and animations, but sales is not art, right? It is an argument. And every time you sell something, you're just closing a belief gap, right? That's the gap between where is your customer right now and what do they believe is possible by buying your product, signing with your company, buying your course, whatever it is. From, I'm skeptical to, okay, this makes sense, to, okay, I trust this company, and then to, okay, I'm sold, how do I buy? The best website pages always follow predictable psychological steps because us as human buyers think in predictable patterns. So the first part of the page we're going to talk about is above the folds. This is the first 5 seconds that someone is interacting with the page. This is the most important part of any sales page, right? If this section fails, the rest of it does not matter at all. There's 4 components we're going to be talking about. First is the ICP callout. So this is just simply calling out who your product or service is for very specifically. So let's go by industry. So for coaching, for online coaches stuck under $10,000 a month, that calls out a very specific type of person. Online coach that is stuck under a certain revenue level, right? For software, for e-commerce brands that are drowning in manual fulfillment. Again, for e-commerce brands that are a specific qualifier, right? For agency services, this is for local service businesses who need 20 to 40 qualified leads per month, right? For direct-to-consumer e-commerce, for home cooks who want restaurant quality results without professional equipment. This is the only way that you will ever get mind share from people in the 21st century because our attention spans are so low. You have to directly tell them, okay, this is for you. Following from that, we can talk about the best headline formulas in which to call out your ideal customers, right? So the golden rule for this is do not try to be clever and just use proven structures. Now I'm going to give you a bunch of the most common proven structures, but there are plenty more that you could possibly use for whatever business that you're running. And you can study up on old copywriters like Gary Halbert and Eugene Schwartz if you want to learn some of those. So the first one is system-based, right? So discover the mechanism that helps your client achieve the outcome they want without the typical objection that they face, right? So an example for that, discover the client acquisition framework that helps local contractors generate 30 to 50 qualified leads per month without relying on referrals or door knocking. And now for the second one is the here's how formula. Here's how to achieve outcome your customer wants by using your mechanism without the 3 most common objections. So for coaching, we could say, here's how to build a 6-figure online course using a validation first launch model without paid ads, a huge audience, or burnout. The third formula is a problem agitation formula. So finally, a product category engineered to solve a very specific problem for your specific customer. Finally, a skin recovery serum engineered to calm irritated adult acne-prone skin. Now, for the fourth one, a little different, is a symptom to root cause to mechanism. So your pain or symptom isn't caused by the thing that your customer probably thinks it's caused by. It's actually caused by this thing, and here's your mechanism built to fix it. So your breakouts aren't caused by oily skin. They're instead caused by barrier damage. And here's the recovery formula designed to restore it. The last formula is the before and after identity shift. And this works really well for any kind of lifestyle brands, right? Turn your current frustrating state of your customer into the desired state with your product, right? So turn your kitchen into a cafe grade espresso bar with insert product name, right? Good headlines are not necessarily writing creatively. You're just compressing your offer into a position statement of sorts in one line, right? You can generally follow the formula of specific person, specific problem, specific mechanism, specific outcome. So not fix your back problems, right? But busy professionals eliminate lower back pain using a spinal alignment support system. Okay, now we can talk about subheadlines. So the subheadline is where you neutralize the first doubt that your customer has after they read the headline. So even if you tried before, even if you don't have a big audience, even if your niche is competitive, right? So think of it like your headline creates interest in the product or service, and the subheadline protects the interest, right? So when someone reads your headline, their brain is going to immediately think of all the reasons why your offer either won't or can't work for their specific situation. That sounds really good, but I've tried this before already. That probably won't work in my specific situation. Now, the subheadline is used to neutralize any of those thoughts before they think a different business might be a better choice than you. Now, if you see my content anywhere else, you've probably heard me talk about the importance of video sales assets, but for the purposes of building a high converting sales page, it depends if you should use video. Now, you want to use a video sales asset when you're selling high ticket coaching, you're educating cold traffic, you need trust really fast, or you have a personality driven brand. So for example, let's say if I'm the face of a supplement company, right? And most of the people that are getting introduced to the company are seeing me on Instagram or TikTok explaining the product. I want to be on video on all of the sales pages, thanking them for coming to visit the company's page, thanking them for supporting the startup, whatever it might be. Now, it's probably better for you to use a text-heavy page instead if you sell software, if you sell tools, you sell physical products, or your audience mostly prefers scanning, right? Now, all of these other niches that you might not necessarily think video is super important for can be improved by adding a video asset, but they would more so be explainer or tutorial focused instead of storytelling, right? So for example, on a software website, let's say if you're selling a CRM to local contractors, it wouldn't be very necessary for you to tell a story about your product. Your customer just wants to know if your CRM is effective and how it will help them, be more productive or save money, right? Now, for agency services, you absolutely want to use both. And for a lot of niches, that might be the best thing to do, right? Some kind of short 5 to 8 minute video, and then text underneath describing the process, testimonials, and a little bit of your story. Now, the second concept that we're going to talk about is the idea that we should always be using mechanisms instead of vague promises. A lot of sales pages tend to fail because they promise an outcome to the reader, and they don't explain how that outcome is actually achieved. Now, no one that's coming to your page, especially cold traffic that has no idea who you are, is buying the actual outcome. They're buying into the concept that they believe you can get them that outcome, right? Now, instead of saying, we help scale your business, right? That doesn't mean anything to me if I need that service. We would instead say, we implement a 3-channel inbound system combining paid search, landing page conversion optimization, and CRM automation to create a predictable pipeline for your business. Being specific is how you get people to trust you. If you spend time on your sales page and you explain the mechanism by which you get results, you become a more credible option to the customer. I run Facebook ads is really vague and is not really worth much to the person reading it. A geo-targeted paid search plus review funnel system built specifically for multi-location pest control businesses is specific. All right, now after the headline and intro and potentially that video asset, we want to explain the system behind the offer. So what is your offer? Who is it for? What problem does it solve? And why does it exist? When you explain the offer, you want to make sure you use a lot of different visuals to showcase the processes and make your business as clear as possible. So if you're selling an agency service, you could show the old way and the new way. So the old way being referrals, word of mouth, random ad spend, no follow-up. And your new way is search-based acquisition, conversion optimized landing pages, CRM follow-up, and data-backed reporting. And on the e-commerce side, going back to the skincare example, we could say the old way is multiple harsh acne products, complicated routines, and drying your skin out. And the new way is to restore the barrier first, calm inflammation, and use one targeted recovery formula being your product. Now, it is mostly incorrect to assume that your customer is stupid, and this is especially important if you're working with, let's say, business owners, higher net worth individuals. They don't want you to treat them like they're stupid, and that will probably make you less money than you would have made otherwise. But in the case of landing pages, it's okay to assume they might need the maximum amount of clarification on the offer. You don't want to treat them like they're 5 years old, write, very simple sentences. You can still explain things, just don't explain it to them like they're not intelligent. Okay, now we can talk about proof stacking. So most entrepreneurs are way too conservative with proving that their offer actually works on the page. So proof stacking just means layering different types of evidence. So case studies, screenshots, video testimonials, written testimonials, before and after data, specific metrics related to the case studies. All proof is just reinforcement of the argument. And selling something is just making an argument, right? So no customer that you will ever have is going to be angry that you put too much evidence that your product works on the website. In fact, they're probably going to thank you and they're going to trust you more before they even go to buy, right? So taking a personal example from someone I'm working with, this product that this company is selling is really important for doctors and for anybody who works in the operating room. But they're very shy as to putting testimonials on the site because they assumed that whoever comes here, whether that be a procurement specialist or a doctor, will immediately recognize the importance and just, buy it, instantaneously without thinking about it, right? And after explaining the importance of having testimonials, they've already started collecting several different videos from doctors and surgery centers that are using the product, and it's dramatically increased the close rate. I believe at this point it's increased the percent chance that people go to the Contact Us page here and request a trial of the product by over 2% in just a few weeks. So long story short here, we just want to make sure that we are always putting the maximum amount of proof on our pages and not assuming that people are going to come to it and just buy it because your product is so awesome. We need to convince them why it is awesome. Okay, now we can talk about building trust with your story. So this is a niche tool. You should be including a story section on any long form sales letter for coaching, courses, or for select e-commerce products. Let's say if those are coming from ads on Instagram or Facebook or something like that. Now, traffic that hasn't heard of you or your brand does not trust you whatsoever. So you need to compel them to believe in your mission. And your mission is helping them solve a problem that you encountered in the past. So to do this, we introduce a story structure. So we had a nightmare, there was a breaking point, a turning point, and then some result where we developed the system to get results. So an e-commerce example could be some kind of back pain device, right? So the nightmare was that I spent years dealing with constant lower back pain from sitting at a desk for work. The breaking point was that it started affecting my sleep and my everyday comfort. The turning point was that I decided to research spinal compression and discovered the real issue was poor alignment, and then I developed a solution. And that system became the foundation of some product that I'm presenting to the customer. Now, an example for coaching, let's say fitness coaching for men, the nightmare could be that I trained inconsistently for years with random workouts and diets and I gained no progress. The breaking point was that I realized it wasn't an effort problem, it was that I didn't have a system for training and nutrition. The turning point was that I began applying a very clear progression model for strength training and sustainable nutrition, and the result is that that framework is the foundation for my coaching program. Next, we can talk about offer stacking and perceived value. So if you're selling coaching, some kind of program, a course, a digital product, you need an offer stack. So this is your main offer and then complementary bonuses. Each bonus should first, of course, complement the main offer and help the customer achieve results faster or remove some kind of major friction point, right? So let's say we're selling a business development course. The first bonus could be a lead follow-up automation template. We want to put a dollar value on this bonus. We can approximate that based on wages to complete that bonus and then some other online data you find. And of course, we include that for free as part of their purchase. And another bonus could be a sales call script vault, put a value on it and include it for free. This increases the perceived value. Now, what does that mean? So the real value is whatever it costs you to actually deliver the service to the customer. The perceived value is what it feels worth to the person buying it. Now, your job is to increase the perceived value through the design and structure of your pages, the bonuses you're offering, the proof that your offer works, and the specific outcomes associated with your product or service. Now, of course, everyone is buying on comparison. all of your customers are automatically comparing you to every other even slightly similar thing they've seen in your category, and there's no way to get around that. Continuing on, we're going to talk about risk reversal. So people are skeptical, so your job on your sales page is to remove any risk that would be associated with your offer. First way we can do this is with a money-back guarantee. That's best for courses, coaching, digital programs, and for example, if we're selling a business development course, we could have a 60-day guarantee that says if they complete the program alongside an accountability coach that makes sure they're not, skipping the material, not showing up to calls, but they see no results, they're allowed to request a refund. We could also have a performance guarantee. This works best for services. You just want to avoid promises that you can't reasonably keep, right? So you can't promise if you don't get 50 leads in the first week, then you get a full refund, because you'll probably have to issue a lot of refunds, right? You could have a lead volume threshold. So if we don't generate X leads in Y time, they get Z. You could do free extended service periods, partial refunds, or just different performance-based pricing. And on the e-commerce side, we could use an ethical disclaimer. So you want to use these anytime that your claim could be reasonably interpreted as a guaranteed outcome. So anything that's tied to, make money online, increasing the overall health and well-being of a person, or performance results. So examples here, could be results may vary. Results shown on this page with your testimonials are not typical and are dependent on your participation in the material provided. Implementation required, and no guaranteed income. Now you might think that having a disclaimer like this might turn people off, but it actually allows them to trust you more, because you're saying the results here are not typical and that you actually have to put in effort to achieve the result, and that it's not all some kind of smoke and mirrors scam, and that you buy the product and you become a millionaire, or you buy the fitness program and you become jacked in 1 week. Now, really simply here, we can talk about objection handling and frequently asked questions. So anytime you add a frequently asked questions section, it should only be used to eliminate doubts. So for example, you want to answer the questions of why is this product priced so high or so low? How is this different from insert similar option in your niche? How long until this person sees results? And what if they've tried something similar before? So how are you different? Every single question should answer one objection. We also want to make sure that we understand the importance of outcome-driven calls to action. So we don't want to use generic buttons like submit form. We would be better off using a button that says, yes, I want outcome, or something to that effect. So yes, I want to learn predictable client acquisition. Yes, I want to get lean in 90 days. Yes, I want access to the program now. So people are going to decide whether they want to work with you or not at different points throughout the page, but they will probably decide on one more so than the other. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have calls to action throughout the page. Now, the important distinction with these outcome-driven calls to action are that for software or service businesses, your calls to action should be simple and low friction instead of using that, outcome formula. So book a demo, schedule a call with us, start your free trial, because most of those buyers are going to trend to the more logic-focused side of things. So guys, a high converting sales page is not creative writing. It just moves a user through attention, belief, proof, mechanism, risk reversal, stacks value, and then gives a clear action. If you follow that structure, you don't need to use any silly tricks to make massive amounts of revenue from your sales pages. If you guys have a sales page you want me to break down, you can drop it in the comments below and I'll let you know how you can improve it.